Hey guys, so in today's video I'm going to be giving you the top 3 tips that I have for helping you get out of whatever rank that you're stuck in. And now I'm going to be talking about specifically lower ranks. And so just to be clear, lower ranks to me is probably not your same definition of what lower ranks are. So to me, we're talking about diamond or even ascendant and below, okay? And so to you, diamond and ascendant might actually be high ranks. That's okay. But, you know, even people in my rank immortal and people in radiant can really benefit from these tips because some of these tips aren't necessarily like gameplay related. These are more well, you're gonna see. So but yeah, people that are, if you're in silver, gold, bronze, or wherever, you're gonna benefit from this, even if you're high rank, even if you're my rank, even if you're in radiant, okay? More than likely. So the first tip is to get your mentality in check. Now, I feel like we use this word mentality pretty often, and you might have some idea of what it means. But mentality means quite a lot of things. And in my opinion, mentality is the single most important aspect of Valorant or of a competitive shooter. And so just stick with me here for a second to kind of wrap your head around how many aspects of mentality there really are, okay? So let's start with an example that's not so obvious. This example is mentally checking out, okay? And so this is something you might do currently that you don't even realize that you do, right? And so this is whenever you're in a game and your teammates start playing more passively because you start to lose. Like maybe you tried really hard, you're like, guys, let's go A, let's go B, let's go mid, and then after that, everyone's like, you guys lost all those rounds, your team started giving up, everyone stopped calming, and so you stopped calming yourself. This is an example of mentally checking out, and this definitely ties into mentality, right? So in this way, you're kind of choosing to give up, whether you realize it consciously or not, that you're actually choosing not to continue to actively try to win the game. And that's a problem. You need to be very conscious, you need to be very aware and active in your effort to win the game. Even when your teammates are starting to slow down and play more passive, you need to not follow your teammates passivity, because that's the easy choice, right? Following them and kind of just playing passive is the easy choice, and you don't want to take that way out because that's going to lessen your chances of winning. That's going to keep you stuck where you are. And so this is extremely important. People do this in Immortal. I'm sure people do this in Radiant. The only difference between, you guys and Radiant, not the only difference, okay, but a big difference between you guys and Radiant is that people in Radiant are just very, very good at the game. They're just very, very good at the game. They have a lot more time than you have in the game. And they still have a lot of the same mental, this is what I've noticed, they have a lot of the same mental defects. They have a lot of the same mental problems. When it comes to competitive, even though on average they're a lot better, and the games in Radiant are a lot more fun because they just have a lot more experience, right? So let's talk about one or two other aspects of mentality. So the very classic example now would be tilting or getting tilted at a teammate that's already tilted. So don't fight fire with fire, right? If a teammate's being toxic or upset or angry or whatever, don't get angry or toxic with them back. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? Two wrongs do not make a right. You know that saying, right? So don't try to, whenever someone's angry on your team or upset or whatever it might be, whatever negative affect they might have, try to approach them as like, yo, chill out, we got this, right? We can still win, we can win. Take a deep breath, right? So don't be upset at them, basically. So this is just another example. There's many examples. Another example is beating yourself up for doing poorly, right? So like you've lost a bunch of games in a row, or you make one silly mistake and you're like, I suck, I'm so bad, I know that I'm guilty of this on myself. So you have to give yourself love, right? You have to really be supportive of yourself. You have to be your number one biggest fan, even though some games are gonna feel like, wow, I really suck, but really saying that to yourself makes it so much harder to win the game and to do well. And so especially if you're in a low rank and you keep saying this to yourself, I suck. You suck, you really do. But is that gonna keep you where you are? No. Yes, it is. So don't say it to yourself. Say, I'm good. I'm good. I got this, right? What you say to yourself, not only in this game but in life, really matters. And so if you consistently tell yourself like, okay, I'm never gonna rank up because I'm just bad, you're focusing on the wrong things. You're focusing on what you're doing wrong instead of what could you be doing right, okay? And so this is mentality, guys. This is the first tip. Hopefully you guys really benefit from this. I think this is probably one of the most important things out of everything. Remember, there's many aspects of mentality. You guys can leave comments down below for what other ones you might think of, but let's move on. Hey guys, if you like the first tip I just gave you about mentality and you find it actually pretty insightful, I have a lot more that's just like that and potentially even better in my Patreon in the link down below. And you can find my mentality course, which is extremely useful for you. It's about 2 hours long and it'll help your mentality out a lot. So I'll see you guys in the next tip. All right guys, so the next tip is going to be learn how to effectively comm, okay? And this is something that, again, people struggle all the way from Iron to my rank, and sometimes even like Radiant players do not comm. Now, this does not mean that Radiant players don't know how to comm. So some of you guys might have a slightly different problem in that way, but not calming and not knowing how to comm are still two problems, right? And so let's talk about very basic comms first. And so basic comms are going to be things like obviously calming where enemies are, how much you hit people for when you died, and where specific agents are, what abilities specific agents on the enemy team have used. And so these are kind of more basic, much easier comms to use. They're not like super in depth. They're not complex. They're not hard. So even if you're a very semi-new player, it's not going to be challenging for you to say things like this. The hardest part that I find from coaching people is I assume that people just feel kind of awkward, or they're not used to doing it, so they just simply don't do it. But it's just like any other habit. It's like brushing your teeth. It's like drinking water. Like literally just do it. And after you do it so many times, it's going to become like second nature. But if you keep continuing to not do it, it's going to like kind of hold you back. It's not like the most important thing ever if you don't calm, but it is very important. Okay. So now I want to talk a little bit more about more in-depth comms, because again, this is probably something all of you are going to want to learn to some extent. Now, this does not mean you need to be IGLing every single game. But for instance, how many of us, by raise of hands, how many of us have had a game where no one on our team says like anything? Everyone, right? So what does that mean for you? That means that you can take a step up on those specific games, and whenever you have a game where you actually have people calming, you don't really need to be taking that role. But it's really good if you're comfortable to do that and you're willing to try that. But again, if you're not even comfortable with the initial comms I said, like, you know, calling where enemies are, what abilities they've used, where their locations, how much damage, you want to work on those first, and then you can focus more on these kind of IGL type comms. And you can IGL every game if you want, even when other people are calming. But at the very minimum, I would recommend trying to learn how to pick up comms whenever nobody else on your team is saying anything. Because like playing in silence this is not a game that you play in silence. There's some games you can do that. This is not one of those games. Most games that are competitive, you need to have comms. And so you need to take a step up. You need to step up for your team so you can actually start winning and get out of this rank that you're in, okay? And so how do we do that? Well, a couple examples is simply just asking your team where to go, or telling your team where to go in a kind of like nice IGL sort of way. IGL, by the way, stands for in-game leader, so you're basically an in-game leader. Now, but it requires more than that. You need to have kind of this knowledge of where you think pushing would actually be good. So not just like, let's go A. Let's go A, team. Okay, let's go A. Let's go A. Okay, guys, should we go A? Like, and also don't frame it as a question. If you're like, guys, should we go A? Should we go B? People are not going to say anything. If you're already on a team where nobody says anything and you ask a question like that, do you think they're really going to say anything? Probably not. So don't be upset when they don't. And try to use your comms. If they don't listen, just keep trying, you know? But think like, okay, should we go A or should we go B, because they are going to expect A, right? And so trying to think for reasons why you're pushing and what area that you're pushing can really be helpful for you. And so yeah, basically understand that there's tiers to calming. So there's easy comms, and a lot of you probably don't even do the easy comms. A lot of you are probably silent most of your games. And that's fine, but that's a place that a lot of us sit, and that's something that really can hold you back. So there's tiers, there's more than that, and there's a lot of comms, but remember that a lot of comms can also be bad. You don't want to be backseat gaming your teammates, you don't want to be complaining in chat, you don't want to be saying useless information. There's a difference between comms and annoyance, disturbances. So try to be a good teammate whenever you calm. Try to be useful, try to give useful information, try to guide your teammates, try to be a good IGL whenever your team needs it because nobody's talking. And I'll see you guys in the final tip. Alright guys, last but not least, this is something that you no doubt heard either from me or from someone else before, and it's to simply not focus on your rank and your RR and how much you're losing and how much you're gaining and where you are and where you were yesterday and where you were last week and how much you've lost, and oh, it sucks, right? It just sucks how much I've lost. Instead of focusing on that, let's talk about what else we could focus on, right? So I know you've certainly heard this before, and this does tie in to some degree into mentality, but with that being said, I think it's something that can earn its own tip spot here. So what else can we focus on? The classic or cliche answer is to simply focus on improving, and I'm not going to disagree with that. That's completely accurate. That's completely correct. You should absolutely be focusing on what you can be improving on. But how exactly, what does that mean, and how could we be doing that? So a lot of the time when I die, or whenever you die and it's frustrating and you're already tilted, and you're tilted because you lost all these games, we have a tendency to like snap or to judge straight away, and we're like, and you start freaking out, right? So instead of freaking out, let's focus on what happened, and let's focus on what we could have done better instead. And now this takes some mindfulness, this takes some practice. It's very, especially if you're someone that gets tilted pretty easily, instead of snapping straight away and being like, huh, what could I have done better, you know. So but that is really what you want to do. So instead of like tilting and you know, you run in, you die, you could have been like, okay, maybe I should have waited for my teammates, or maybe I should have asked my teammates to come with me, or maybe we should have asked to rotate, right? And so consider all these potential things, and maybe even some of those things that you're considering after you died are not even correct. But how can you know if they're correct if you didn't at least consider or even try them later? And if you try them later and they work, that's fantastic. If you try them later and they don't work, then you're kind of, it's kind of like you're narrowing down the different things that you can be doing. And so this also ties into being open-minded with where you're, you know, like the different plays you're doing, especially as a duelist. Like, are you playing different areas? Are you pushing from different areas? Are you defending from different areas appropriately? Or are you really kind of stuck in the rut of defending the same place, pushing the same place, and not really thinking outside the box? Because the more places you attack from, the more things you can kind of be like, oh, okay, what could I have done there? Could I have gone here? Could I have gone there? Could I have done something different in this place? Could I have done something different in that place? And so hopefully this makes sense, how this kind of all sort of ties together. But yeah, so, you know, and this also ties into if you're playing with a duo, they can really help keep you accountable with this, instead of, because like obviously whenever your teammate or duo is tilting, you don't want to be like, yo, just stop tilting, bro. You can't just say like that, but you can be like, yo, we got this, take a deep breath, or something like that. We got this, bro, we got this, don't give up, something like that. And you can have a partner that keeps you kind of accountable, and I think that's really useful. And you know, it might be actually kind of hard to find a duo like that, especially if you're playing with a duo that tilts anyway. That's just going to be kind of enabling if you're both tilters. But you know, I wish you guys, I know you guys can do it. So this has been the video. I think the first tip is going to be one of the most important. So again, if you guys want to check out my mentality course, you can find that down in the link below. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.